Welcome to the podcast series The New Student Pharmacist, where we discuss chemistry and pharmacy, as well as leaders in pharmacy careers, community, and chemistry and pharmacy research. We encourage you to support the work we are doing and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by subscribing for free. Note, the views on the podcast represent those of my guest and I.
Purpose of these episodes not at all for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support to peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice or medical suggestions. Please see your local board and state-certified health professional. The views of this podcast represent those of my guests and I.
So get this, today's deep dive. We're going somewhere you might not expect. We're talking Bitcoin, but not just Bitcoin. Bitcoin with John Salley.
John Salley.
Yeah, John Salley.
Four-time NBA champ John Salley.
The one and only.
The bad boys John Salley.
That's the one. Though I did love him and he got game too.
Oh, for sure. But wait, what's he got to do with Bitcoin?
Well, that's the whole point of this deep dive, right?
Yeah.
So we were going through this interview he did, and let me tell you, the guy is passionate about financial inclusion, and he thinks Bitcoin is the key.
Interesting. It's not every day you see a Hollywood actor and NBA champ going all in on cryptocurrency.
Right. So we really dug into this interview, trying to unpack it all. And Salley talks about this aha moment he had back in 2019, maybe 2020, at this huge Bitcoin conference down in Miami.
Okay, now that's a scene I can picture.
Right. Mayweather was there, Beckham Jr., everybody who's anybody. And they're all talking about the future of finance, the future of money. Sally's right there in the thick of it. But he's not just rubbing shoulders with celebrities. He's there because he's looking for answers.
Answers to what?
Well, this is around the time when the economy was starting to get a little shaky, remember?
Yeah.
Everyone was a little on edge about their finances.
Yeah, I can see that.
And it sounds like Salley was no different. He wanted to figure out how to protect himself, how to make sure his money was safe. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about him. He started to see Bitcoin as something bigger, something that could change the game for everybody, especially people who haven't always had a fair shot.
Now that's an interesting angle. You're saying he saw it as a way to level the playing field?
Exactly. And it goes back to his own experiences, right? He's talked about this before, how as a black man, he's seen firsthand how systems can be rigged against certain groups.
Yeah, that makes sense. He's bringing his own perspective to this, his own understanding of how the world works.
And he talks about this in the interview, how things like redlining have kept certain communities from building wealth.
And for those who might not know, redlining is basically when banks or lenders refuse to give loans or services to people based on their race or where they live. It's been a huge problem for a long time.
Exactly. And Salley sees that lack of diversity in traditional finance, and he's like, there's got to be a better way. And that's where Bitcoin comes in, right? It's like he sees this technology as a way to bypass all those gatekeepers, all those institutions that have historically kept certain people out of the game.
So he's not just talking about making money, he's talking about access, about opportunity.
Exactly. And that's what makes his take on this so fascinating. It's not just about the technology itself, it's about what that technology represents. It's about empowerment. It's about taking control of your own financial destiny.
Yeah, and, that's a powerful message.
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to dig into more after the break. Stay with us. And we're back, diving deeper into John Salley's take on Bitcoin and why he sees it as a game changer.
One thing that really struck me in this interview was how he connects financial health to overall well-being.
Totally. He actually says at one point, you feel much better when your money is right.
It might sound obvious, but think about it. When your finances are messed up, it impacts everything, right?
100%.
Mm.
It's like this weight hanging over you.
Exactly. It affects your stress levels, your relationships.
Even your sleep, probably.
Oh, absolutely. And for Sally, it's all connected.
And that's where this comparison to his veganism comes in, right?
Exactly. He sees both as ways to take control of your life, your well-being.
It's like with veganism, you're choosing what you put into your body.
And with Bitcoin, you're choosing how you manage your money, how you participate in the financial system.
He's big on that idea of informed choices, empowering yourself, but he's also realistic about it. Like he knows not everyone's going to be rushing out to buy Bitcoin tomorrow.
Yeah, he even compares it to the early days of the automobile.
Oh, right, when people were skeptical about cars holding onto their horses and buggies.
Exactly. He sees Bitcoin at a similar crossroads.
So he's not saying this is the only way, but he is saying, hey, this is happening. You should at least try to understand it.
Definitely. And that's where education comes in. He emphasizes that a lot.
Because knowledge is power. Right. Especially when it comes to something as complex as cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. It's like anything else. You got to do your research, understand the risks and potential rewards.
Right. We're not saying drop everything and buy Bitcoin. This isn't financial advice.
Exactly. But what's fascinating about Sally's take is that he sees this as more than just an investment.
It's about social good too, right?
Precisely. He believes this technology has the potential to level the playing field, especially for those who have been historically marginalized by traditional financial systems.
And he keeps coming back to this idea of Bitcoin being decentralized.
Right, no central authority controlling it.
It's like he's saying, this is for everyone.
And he gives this interesting example. He mentions how you can buy Bitcoin at ATMs now, even in New York City.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's becoming more mainstream, more accessible.
It's like he's saying, this isn't some far-off future. It's happening now.
And that really gets to the heart of his message. He sees Bitcoin as a tool for empowerment, for taking control of your financial future, and he wants everyone to have that opportunity.
And that's a powerful message. Regardless of how you feel about Bitcoin, it's about taking ownership of your finances, your future.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation worth having.
And it's that feeling, right? That feeling of actually being in control, not just with your money, but with your life.
Totally. It's like we all crave that sense of agency, of being able to make choices that align with our values.
100%. And for Sally, it sounds like both veganism and Bitcoin tap into that same desire.
Yeah, it's about taking a step back, looking at the systems we're a part of and saying, hold on, is this really working for me?
It's like questioning the status quo, right?
Exactly. And not being afraid to explore alternatives.
And that's what I appreciate about Sally's approach. He's not preachy about it. He even says, look, I'm not telling you what to do.
Right. It's more like, hey, this is something I've found that's been empowering for me. Maybe it'll resonate with you too.
And he's big on the education piece, like do your own research, figure out if this makes sense for you.
Totally. It's all about informed decision-making. And whether or not you agree with his stance on Bitcoin, you got to admire that.
Absolutely. But here's the thing that really stuck with me. If someone like John Salley, with his background, his success...
Someone who's been there, done that in traditional systems.
Exactly. If he's this passionate about the potential of Bitcoin, especially for folks who've been shut out of those traditional systems.
It makes you wonder, right?
It really does. It makes you stop and think, okay, maybe there's something here I need to understand better.
And that's what we've tried to do today, to unpack those ideas, give you different perspectives to consider.
Because at the end of the day, knowledge is power. And whether you're talking about your health, your finances, or anything else in life.
Making informed choices is key.
Oh, couldn't have said it better myself. And with that, we're wrapping up another deep dive. Big thanks to everyone for joining us as we explored this unexpected intersection of sports, finance, and social change. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep...
So thanks again for joining me. I appreciate this highly. So interrelation, I've prepared a few questions in terms of your movie you're trying to promote. Once again, I'd like to say I'm glad to have you. Someone who's had a successful NBA career and now transitioned into wellness, veganism, and entrepreneurship. How did you come to be involved in God Bless Bitcoin? What drew you to the project's focus on monetary reform and blockchain technology?
Thank you for having me, and make sure everybody checks out godblessbitcoin.com. It's a free documentary. Well, it's you don't have to pay money to watch it, but nothing is free. It's available without you having to purchase it. Good way of looking at it. And how I got involved in 2019 or 20, I went down to Bitcoin conference. It was a huge conference down in Miami. Mayweather was on stage, and just to name one, Beckham Jr. was on stage, and everybody was talking about the future of finance, the future of money, where the government was going, what was going to happen with our country. And you see us going through tons of changes. We hear things like what happened with the stock exchange. We know about strikes, but no one really knew what to do with money, and no one really paid attention or did anything since President Nixon took us off the gold standard. So I was down looking for answers, and I met up with a bunch of people. There was a lot of coins, but the coins that were making the moves, that was literally based in something, and the original was Bitcoin. And when they were shooting the documentary, I thought it was important that a person like me who's been through so many things and people have seen me, I could bring light to it. And I wanted to I've been in front of the camera since 1989, 1986 playing pro ball, but in front of the entertainment channel since 1989. And I was like, this is something that we need to get the point across to. This crosses everything. We don't have to deal with all these different people in our pocket. It can literally be peer to peer, and it's an honest way of dealing with things. So I thought it was important that me being a person of color would have something involved with it. We don't have to ask for diversity in this part. We can be a part of, not just in Black business, but in business, period.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. So the New Chemist podcast, which is the podcast group that I help host, often focuses on ways that science and technology can be made accessible to diverse communities. So we've been working in that space for a while. How do you think blockchain and Bitcoin can make financial systems more inclusive for marginalized communities, much like science needs to become more inclusive? How do you think this movie will contribute to creating a more inclusive space for the finance arena? Will it be like financial literacy, or is it the inspiration for people to learn more about it? What do you think will contribute to making the financial arena more inclusive, just based off this movie?
Well, one thing is we know we weren't included here in the country when they dealt with banking. Did a movie, Samuel Jackson, when everyone can see when they were first Black bank and they had to hide. We heard about redlining when it came to not letting people of color live in certain neighborhoods and not even giving them tons of real estate, even though we had the money. You know, the idea was put it in your mattress. Well, those days are over. And one thing that we can say we can get behind and we won't be behind is how to deal with the blockchain. We can see like people are running around and talking about, well, I don't want to get an iPhone because it has AI on it, not realizing we've been using AI for God knows how long. Exactly. So as opposed to Sony just put it in a situation where you can pay for Apple Pay through Bitcoin. They realize that this ledger doesn't have a color. This ledger is not made just for powerful men in one position. This is why it was created. Is so we can have something to defend against, and we can have something that we can all be a part of, whether you're Black, brown, purple, male, female, transgender, anything. If you have money and you want to convert it into something that's safe, it would be into the Bitcoin blockchain.
Okay, yeah, I hear you. And as we proceed, I know you only have a short span of time, but I have to get this question in. Um, what would be your one piece of advice to people who are aspiring professionals? You know, you've been successful in your career. One of my friends is actually a pro ball player in France with ALM, Ivero, Basket. So what would be your one piece of advice? You know, you've had so much success, Mr. Salley and John Salley. What would be your Sally? What would be your advice to people as they watch this movie? What one piece of advice would you give to someone?
Well, first thing, one piece of advice is stop thinking that you have tomorrow. All you have is right now,
Okay.
is this moment, if you're blessed to have it. And the other one, why I say God bless Bitcoin.com, is everybody's going to have to deal with a situation with money. Just now, yesterday, we found out that the longshoremen went on strike. And that means people are going to be stockpiling, or pretty should be. If it goes any longer than 4 days. If it goes any longer than 4 days, we're going to be a month behind. So it's going to run to a situation where inflation is going to go up because supply is down. Well, if you're on the blockchain and you're saving your money and you're putting it in there, it can go up. It can help you. You can trade. Pretty soon you'll be able to buy everything. I know in New York City at the ATM, they sell Bitcoin. So it's coming in slowly, and a lot of people don't want to pay attention. Just like the same when we started the automobile, a lot of people still had a horse and buggy, but eventually there was no horse and buggy. It was only automobile. So you better, I always say, get in when you can and get on now. It's not going to push you out, but this is the time to build wealth.
Hey, that's very good. So our podcast strives to make complex topics like chemistry and pharmacology accessible to underrepresented audiences. How do you see Bitcoin education playing a similar role in empowering people? You talk about it providing opportunities for inclusion. You talk about it providing opportunity for structured acquisition. How do you? What other ways do you see this playing a role in financially empowering people?
Well, it will get them to the blockchain, and the leader on the blockchain will be a Bitcoin. Now, the blockchain doesn't just have to do with cryptocurrency. It has to do with how most things are going to be dealt with, right? Above board, no underhand. So it's an important thing, one, to get people to know the way to get to the money, and that's with Bitcoin. And then along that, you're going to learn what happens on the trade or to be able to do things within the blockchain. There was a big thing about NFTs years ago. There's tons of people talking about different coins that are going to be made. The one coin that has stand up, the one coin that has made a difference, the one coin that makes us even have this conversation is Bitcoin. So that's why the saying, God bless Bitcoin.com, and you can learn everything you need to. I'm going to say everything you need to learn. It's not just going to be, the first step. It's going to be the first 5 steps to understanding it.
Okay, so one last question, and then I'll let we'll start to wrap up. So, if I'm correct, you are a vegan activist and a wellness entrepreneur. Do you see any parallels between your advocacy for healthy living and advocacy for financial health with Bitcoin? How does financial empowerment align with wellness advocacy?
Well, I have so many things I advocate for, and that's my way of using my voice. How it's going to help? Well, you feel much better when your money is right. Right? Yes. So when your money is right, but I have to explain to people, money is changing. It's not going to be down in Venezuela, there's money all over the streets that has no value because they printed so much of it, just paper money with nothing to base upon. The difference with Bitcoin is there's only going to be 21 million ever. So you're going to be buying fractions. It's never going to be diluted like the money is diluted now. That's the first part. The second part is what I always talk about, taking care of your body. That's why I live a plant-based diet, better known as vegan, because I care about the animals as well. One of the things what I advocate for is taking care of you. You're the only you have. And if you keep putting it off, and expecting the government to take care of you, we see how that's turned out. We are the government, so we have to take care of ourselves.
Yep, I agree. Self-governance, that's very important. But yeah, Mr. Salley, can I call you John? Is that okay? Can I call you John?
John Salley. You can say however you want to say it. Sally, John, Big John, whatever you want to say.
Okay, well, John, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. I really appreciate it highly. I don't know what the future brings, but it'll be nice if we could collaborate again in terms of creating outreach avenues for education for underrepresented people. So take care, Mr. Salley.
Okay, brother. Bless up.
Purpose of these episodes not at all for advice or medical suggestions. These are aimed to provide support to peer pharmacists in training in educational and intellectually stimulating ways. Again, these are not at all for medical advice or medical suggestions. Please see your local board and state-certified health professional. The views of this podcast represent those of my guests and I.
Thanks for listening to the podcast series The New Student Pharmacist, where we discuss chemistry and pharmacy, as well as leaders in pharmacy careers, community, and chemistry and pharmacy research. We encourage you to support the work we are doing and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts by subscribing for free. We are so glad that you were able to tune in today. Note, the views on the podcast represent those of my guest, and I take care and all the best.